All right, so let's begin. Steps we're following: identify the variable, creating the equation, and decide whether we're going to algebraically do it, graphically do it, or use a table. I'm assuming you mostly are going to always vote for graphically in here. Yes. 34. And we're going to solve the system. When you're solving a word problem, it pertains to the problem. So writing the ordered pair is not your solution. Telling me what the ordered pair means is your solution. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope so. All right, here we go. So step one is to identify our variable. So let's read our problem. We have 8 pens and 7 pencils, and they cost $3.37, while 5 pens and 11 pencils cost $3.10. What is the cost of each pen and each pencil? So what are our two unknowns? Cost of pens and pencils, right? So variable X is going to be pens and variable Y is going to be pencils, because those are the things we don't know, right? Does that make sense? All right. The second thing is to create the equation. So we create the equation by reading what it's given to us. So it says 7 and 8 pens. So we know that pens is represented by which variable? X. So 8 pens. Mathematically, what does the word and mean? Plus. And means plus. 7 pencils, and pencils is represented by. And cost means what? Equals. Good job. So $3.37. So that's our first equation. How do we feel about the first equation? It's all right. Okay. Well, it's what the numbers are. All right. So what's our second equation following that same logic? Perfect. There we go. So we have our two equations. Okay. Step 3 is to solve them. And so how we choose to solve them is up to us. For us, we're going to do it graph, right? Now, we're going to practice getting Y by itself, because are you going to always have Desmos in some of your math classes? No. And so if you're using a standard graphing calculator, Y has to be by itself. So let's just practice so that we are smart and capable people to get Y by itself. So for the first equation, 8x, well, what I need to do to get Y by itself? What's the first thing we got to do? Subtract. So Y would equal 337 minus 8x. After we subtract, we then what? Then we divide. So that's our first equation with Y by itself. You're either adding and subtracting, then dividing. Adding or subtracting, then dividing. Adding or subtracting, then dividing. Does that make sense? And we go alphabetically. You move your X, then you deal with your Y. X before Y, right? All right. So our second equation comes from this guy. What am I doing to get Y by itself? Subtracting what? The X. Remember, move the X, then deal with my Y, right? So I'm going to subtract the 5X and then divide by 11. So those are my two equations that I'm putting in to any graphing calculator, not just into Desmos, but into any graphing calculator. All right. So now I'm going to go to the graph screen, show my little handy dandy taskbar. Desmos. Okay, in Desmos, when you're putting in a fraction, you're going to put the numerator in parentheses. So we have what on the first, our Y1 is, what was our Y1? 337 minus 8x and then divide by 7. And to divide is the forward slash, and then it creates it for me. The forward slash by your shift button. And then we repeat for our Y2. So again, parentheses for my numerator, and we had 3 and 10 hundredths minus 5x / what is it? 11. Okay, so I can zoom in. There are 3 dots, but which one matters? The intersection. And so this is what matters, is the intersection. So I zoomed in, found my intersection. So my intersection is at 2900 and 1500. Do we all agree? Why no? Ugh. So 3, we got 2900 and 1500. So now we're going to answer the problem. So the problem says, what do we want to know? What is the cost? So in terms of this problem, I didn't mean to choose orange. What is the cost of pens? We write pens cost how much? What? 29. That's because pens is which variable? X. Pens cost 29 cents. And pencils cost 15 cents. If it's a word problem, your response should have words in it. So pens cost 29 cents. Pencils cost 15 cents. Yay, you did it. Was that terrible? Oh my gosh, of course you're gonna say that. It wasn't that bad. I'll take that. That's passing. All right, are we ready to try another one? We got enough to do one more. And we can do it. All right. A shipping company charges a fixed amount for their services and a certain amount per mile they must travel. If a 50-mile trip costs $112 and an 80-mile trip costs $157, find the fixed cost and the cost per mile. So step 1 is to identify our unknowns. So our unknowns are the fixed and the cost per mile. So fixed cost, right? We don't know it. And our cost per mile, we don't know. So those are our X and our Y. What they're asking you to find are your unknowns. Okay. Step 2 is to create our equations. So using the given information, we know that 50-mile trip costs $112. Okay, so $112 equals, they went 50 miles and we have cost per miles. 50 miles, right? Do we know how many? How much it costs? Nope. And they have a fixed rate. So a fixed rate is what you're going to be charged no matter what, right? It's like their standard fee. So with that logic, what would be our second equation? There we go. So again, we are going to solve how? By getting graphically. So by getting y by itself. So for the first equation, what am I doing to get y by itself? Subtracting what? X. Job. And then I'm going to do what? Divide by what? 50. Job. And then my y2 is? Good job. Remember, we're either adding or subtracting first, then dividing. Adding or subtracting first, then dividing. And it's always your X, then your Y, alphabetical. Are we ready to graph? Why not? We have plenty. All right. Here we go to graph. So I'm going to just delete these. Is that cool? All right. So shift. What was my first one? 112 minus X divided by 50. There's my first one. 157 minus x divided by 80. Perfect. Okay, can I see it? You can see it? Hold on, let me zoom out a little bit.
A little bit, a lot of bit.
There it is. 37 and 1.5. All right. So for 3, we got 37 and 1.5. Now 4 is where we answer it and how it pertains to the problem. So what does 37 represent? The fixed cost. So our fixed cost is $37. And then what does the 1.5 represent? Cost per mile. So our cost per mile is $1.50. And that's our answer. All right, so this is where we're gonna stop. Tomorrow we're gonna finish. Is that cool? All right.